The 1998 kart season kicks off on the 1.5 mile oval here at Homestead in southern Florida. 29 drivers from 9 countries are set to open their challenge for their FedEx Championship Series. And a very warm welcome from Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw from the Miami-Dade Homestead Motorsports Complex in southern Florida as we get ready for the first round of the 1998 FedEx Championship Series. It's the Grand Prix of Miami presented by Toyota. 150 laps of the 1.5 mile rebuilt oval, a total distance of 225 miles, a fast and furious racetrack to set the opening scene for this year's championship. We're around 30 miles south-southwest of the city of Miami, a tremendous place to have the race, a great enthusiasm for motorsport in this part of the world. The cosmopolitan city of Miami, with its great South American influence, certainly brings out the fans to this 1.5 mile oval. And we've got some pretty good weather conditions today. There's a little bit of cloud cover, some blue sky as well. Temperatures not as high as we have seen over some of the practice days, but that is a good thing for the teams. They'll be fairly relieved about that, and the lapping will be faster as a result. Let's take a look at some of the teams that are playing their part today. Of the top teams, the top team at the moment is the Target Ganassi Racing Team. Champions in 1996, courtesy of Jimmy Vasser, and of course last year, courtesy of the Italian Alex Zanardi. Can they make it 3 years in a row? Well, they've certainly been going well in testing, with Jimmy Vasser setting the pace on this oval track in spring training. Chip Ganassi himself, a former racer, saw his first victory for the team come in 1994 with Michael Andretti. Since then, their total number has gone up to 22 victories. The team they're out to emulate for 3 championships in a row is Marlboro Team Penske, the most successful team in the history of Champ Car racing. They're on 99 overall victories, 10 Indy 500 wins and 9 championships. Brazilian Andre Ribeiro joins the team this year alongside Alonso Jr. And the man who left Team Penske is now at Team Cool Green. Paul Tracy, the oval master, regarded as a tremendous driver on all these kind of tracks, is now in a new team. He's been struggling, but is getting better. And another of the top teams, Newman Haas, who won here last year. The team established by Paul Newman and businessman Carl Haas back in 1983. They've won the championship in 84, in 1991 and 1993 with Nigel Mansell. Can Michael Andretti take the title this year? His teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, looking for a full season uninterrupted by the problems that he had last year when a broken leg put him out for several races. They're the scene down in the pit lane at the moment then as the Newman Haas team prepare for the start of this race. Those top teams, though, certainly have some opposition nowadays. They might be established, but there are some teams who've come up in the last few years who are definitely going to challenge for the title. First amongst those probably is the Pac West team. Winners of 4 races in 1997, all in the second half of the season. Maurizio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell make a formidable driver lineup. The man behind the team, Bruce McCaw, is a man who's done extremely well in the business world, and he hopes to do well in this series now. Forsyth Racing with Greg Moore also doing extremely well. They've gone up to 2 cars this year. And the Walker Racing team for Gilles de Ferran, which finished second in the championship last year. Gilles de Ferran has led on both occasions he's raced at this track. And there down in the pits is Gilles de Ferran preparing for this outing with the Walker Racing team. Unlucky last year to be leading when he was taken out by Dennis Vitolo. He's going to hope for better luck, and he'll be starting from 11th place on the grid here today. Welcome back to our coverage of this first round of the 1998 FedEx Championship Series. The smoke there, don't worry about that. That's just because they've been setting off some fireworks, Jeremy.
Quite impressive, wasn't it? Really get the season off with a bang. We've had an Indy Lights race this morning. There were a couple of incidents there, but it was an exciting race, won by Japanese driver Shigeaki Hattori. That was to get the fireworks underway, and here we are ready for the main race of the afternoon.
Well, Hattori, the Japanese driver, will be hoping to make his way into this form of racing in the next few years, and there's a few drivers who've done that over the last year or so. We're looking at some of the new boys. Now, strictly speaking, Patrick Carpentier is not a rookie. He was Rookie of the Year last season. The French-Canadian has switched to Forsyth Racing. Quick on the ovals last year, he finished 9th here at Homestead. Dario Franchitti battled with Carpentier for that Rookie of the Year title last year. He switched from the Hogan team to Team Green. He should benefit from a more well-funded outfit. Also, a brand new rookie this year, Helio Castroneves, the Brazilian, the protege of Emerson Fittipaldi. But this crash he suffered on Friday has rather set him back. JJ Leto comes over from European Racing, his debut over here in the Championship Series. The rapid but highly rated Finn is looking forward to a new career. Another Brazilian joins in as rookie this year, the 22-year-old Tony Kanaan, who won the Indy Lights Championship last year. He's got a great package with Tasman Motorsport. And Alex Barron is another rookie who's moved up into the series. He joins the All-American Racing team of Dan Gurney. He also suffered a crash on Friday afternoon. So there is Alex sitting down in his car. That is a 1997 Reynard rather than the 1998 car that the team had been hoping to run him in. But nonetheless, Alex Barron, who's only had 2 seasons of car racing coming into this championship, has been going extremely well in testing, and a lot of things are expected of him. His teammate remains PJ Jones, but remember, Juan Fangio, who was with the team, has now retired from championship car racing. Let's take a look at some of the veterans who are also competing this year, and a man who is set to retire at the end of this season. The so-called last ride tour of Bobby Rahal as he sets out here at Miami for the last time. Don't count him out for the championship though. Alonso Jr. is now a veteran of the series, but he hasn't won a race for 2 years. The twice former champion is looking for a much better season this time. Scott Pruitt, also a veteran now, although the Californian has come up through the road racing ranks. He did score a 3rd place finish at Rio last year. There is Bobby Rahal, though, the man who's going into his final season. That's a little bit of a sad thought, isn't it, Jeremy? Yeah,
Bobby Rahal's been so much a part and parcel of this series for the last 15 years. Meteoric rise, really, for Bobby Rahal in terms of the fact that he was plucked out of Toyota Atlantic by Jim Truman and put into the Champ Car Series in 1983 and won very, very quickly indeed. He wants to go out on a high note as well. And he's certainly capable of doing it. But there are a few drivers who could spring some surprises throughout this season. One of those is the Mexican driver, Michel Jourdain Jr., the 20-year-old now he is, but last year he was 21 now, yes. He's started out when he was only 19 years old in the kart series, a remarkable performance from the young Mexican we've seen over the last couple of years, particularly towards the end of last season when he came on strong. Yeah, and he had a crash actually here a couple of weeks ago, but he's made a good recovery from that. The team is back on track, new car newly built up, and he is ready to go this season. So Michel Jourdain is one of the surprises that could come through towards the end of the championship. He hasn't qualified quite as well here as he did in Fontana at the end of last year, but Jourdain, one to watch. Mexico's interest is not only with Michel Jourdain, it's also with Adrian Fernandez, who's won a race in the past already, the Toronto race of '96, and he was fastest here in the non-qualifying practice. Brian Herter is also one to watch. He's aiming to become the top American driver. He's got some stiff opposition in Michael Andretti, Alonso Jr. and Jimmy Vasser. But Brian's got the ability, and he's probably got the equipment this year. The switch to Firestone tyres for Team Rahal could make a difference. Very much so. He is pumped, ready for this season. He hasn't won a race yet. He knows it's within his grasp. He's been fast throughout testing this past winter season, and he is ready to make his mark this season.
So there's the view over this 1.5 mile track, revised corners at either end. You can see it's a much more smooth line through either end of the oval track now. The car's just leaving the pit lane, and our coverage here on Eurosport, live coverage coming to you Sunday night in Europe. Great time to watch the race, and what a fantastic race we should have. Let me tell you, for those of you with interest in the European drivers, they haven't gone badly at all so far. There is Mark Blundell. He did a great job in qualifying yesterday. He was on pole for a while, but at the end of the session it cooled off a bit more and some of the faster drivers moved up through the field. He starts in 7th place, but Jeremy, he was looking great yesterday, wasn't he?
It was a fantastic effort, Ben. He was struggling a little bit. He is one of the people running a 97 chassis here, but it does have all the 98 updates in terms of the aerodynamic developments that have been made over the winter. He was quick in the first session on Friday morning and struggled a little bit, but his qualifying run was quite sensational. It was a half a second quicker than he'd gone before, and that really put the cat amongst the pigeons, and I think it was probably him that motivated Greg Moore to set that stunning qualifying lap more than anybody else.
Now then, Jeremy, how do you rate this year for Mark Blundell? Winner of 3 races last year. Is Mark really a championship contender this year, in your opinion?
No question. Yeah, the confidence is up. It was boosted by those wins last year, and particularly probably that win at Fontana at the end of the year on the oval. He's won on all sorts of racetracks. He's won on the road course, he's run on the street course in Toronto, and then at Fontana last year. He's ready to challenge for the championship, no question about it.
So, good season in prospect for Mark Blundell, but let's not discount Dario Franchitti from... He qualified in 13th position yesterday with his new team, Team Green, and that was also a very good effort.
Yeah, they've been struggling with understeer with that team, the Team Cool Green, but they're making progress. It was better again this morning. Both drivers were happier this morning, so I think they're going to show well in the race this afternoon.
Cars making their way round on the first of the parade laps now as we head towards the start of the race here. And let's take a look now at how the grid lines up for the opening race of the 1998 championship. Greg Moore on pole position. His first pole, is the youngest ever pole sitter. Alongside him, Andre Ribeiro, his first outing for the Penske team, the first front row for a Penske car since midway through last year. Jimmy Vasser won here 2 years ago for his first ever win in the Champ Car Series. Christian Fittipaldi's qualified well here in 4th position, hoping for a more complete season than he suffered last year after breaking his leg. Adrian Fernandez, a great 5th place in qualifying. He finished 3rd in the last race at Fontana on the Super Speedway. Reigning champion Alex Zanardi lines up alongside him on the 3rd row of the grid. He led here last year until his 2nd pit stop went wrong. Mark Blundell, as we mentioned, starting in 7th position, winner of 3 races last year, including the final race. But Michael Andretti alongside him was the winner here at Homestead in 1997. Patrick Carpentier, Rookie of the Year last year, but now he has to mix it with the big boys. No excuses, he's had a year's experience. Maurizio Gugelmin, the fastest ever qualifier on a racetrack when he set that pace of over 240 miles an hour at Fontana at the end of last year. He also has to be a favourite for the overall championship. Gilles de Ferran was 2nd in last year's series, and leader in 2 previous races here at Homestead. He likes this track, even though it's been changed, he likes the changes too. Scott Pruitt is alongside him. That best result of 3rd place on an oval, his best oval track finish last year, but he had a win last year as well. Dario Franchitti and Alonso Jr. line up together on the 7th row of the grid, and Dario Franchitti looking to build in this 2nd season of racing in the United States. He's got some experience, he hopes to make the best of it, but Alonso Jr. is desperate for a good season. Richie Hearn driving the 3rd Swift, Brian Herter alongside him in the Team Rahal, now with Firestone tyres. Behind those two, Tony Kanaan and Bobby Rahal. Rahal in his last outing on this Homestead Oval as a driver, but he'll be back as team manager. Watch out for the young Kanaan, he's a prospect for the future. Michel Jourdain and Max Papis, Mexican versus Italian, back on the 10th row of the grid, and the Italian Papis going well. Paul Tracy, long way down, but the car was going much better in the warm-up this morning, so we could see him come through. Castro Neves recovering from that accident on Friday, but just bruised his knees in that. Roberto Moreno's back again in the Project Indy car. Hiro Matsushita, the Japanese driver, will be competing in just 5 races this year. Dennis Vitolo's got a full season, more or less, about 15 races ahead of him. PJ Jones in the All-American Racers Reynard, he'll be hoping to improve on his 13th row qualifying position. His teammate Alex Barron just behind him. The German driver Arndt Meyer is 28th on the grid and the only loader in the entire field. And starting at the back, JJ Leto, the Finn, unfortunately didn't get a time in qualifying. They had gearbox problems.
And and that team worked all night to repair the damage on that car. Several of the crew, led by Simon Morley, new to Champ Car Racing from the Stewart Grand Prix team, also worked with Leto at the Benetton in Formula 1 a few years ago. But Leto was very quick this morning in practice. That team doesn't have a lot of rest, but they're ready to go racing this afternoon.
So that's the situation here on Eurosport. Let's take a break and be back for racing. The racing just having got underway. Greg Moore with the initial advantage. No change at the start. They just got away cleanly, smoothly on the green flag. No dramas at all. You're looking down at Alex Zanardi, who has made a pretty good getaway. He's up to third position, in fact, already, and that was a good, smooth start. But Greg Moore taking the advantage from that pole position he earned so well yesterday in practice. Fantastic job it was too. There we're on board with last year's race winner here, Michael Andretti in the Swift chassis, and behind him is teammate Christian Fittipaldi. And watch out this year, it's easy to mix the two of them up because they're both running in the black colours of Texaco Haviline, and Christian Fittipaldi has reverted to his old Formula 1 day crash helmet colours, the bright yellow, the day-glow yellow colours. There is a great view of Christian Fittipaldi running in 5th place at the moment. That's the way to spot the difference between these two cars, now that the two cars are actually liveried up exactly the same. Fittipaldi running in 5th place, Greg Moore, our early race leader.
And there is Zanardi in 3rd place, followed by Michael Andretti. That was a super start from Alex Zanardi. Several other moves farther down the field. I noticed Tony Kanaan moved up, 5 or 6 places, up into 14th now. His game plan, he was telling me this morning, was to tuck in behind the two Team Rahal cars, Bobby Rahal and Brian Herter. We passed them at the first corner.
Well, there is Greg Moore, our race leader at the moment, up by 1.4 seconds. There's our new graphic to show you how they line up at the moment. The top 6, Moore, Ribeiro, Zanardi, then Andretti, Fittipaldi and Fernandez. Let me tell you that Mark Blundell has dropped down a little bit. He's in 11th position. Dario Franchitti is in 16th position. I tell you what, a good start from Max Papis, who finds himself in 15th position already. So for the Italian, who qualified down in 20th place, good getaway.
Yeah, the Toyota engine, no question, is still down on horsepower compared to its rivals from Ford, Honda and Mercedes-Benz. But in race trim, that horsepower is not quite so important. It's handling ability and consistency that are keys in this race. And the Max Papis has that with the Arturo Wells MCI car.
Now, as you watch this race with us, everybody is learning, because it's the first time that this track has been run in its revised form for these cars in race condition. Last year, there were 4 separate corners, the drivers turning in 4 separate times. Now, the 2 corners at either end of the track are just one constant radius at either end, and it's quite a different track to drive now. It's faster as well, the average speed over 215 miles an hour in qualifying yesterday. They're up to 220 miles an hour on the straight. But the idea is that overtaking should be easier. That's part of the reason that they've made these changes. Also, greater safety, because the cars won't go off at quite such an uncomfortable angle into the wall if something goes wrong. But that's what we've got to watch out for now. Is overtaking going to be any easier, particularly when they get into traffic later in the race?
And the overall feeling was that perhaps not. And certainly if you look around the track now, the cars are actually pretty well spaced out, which is, I guess, it's early stages in this race. Everybody's taking it cool, feeling the cars out, not wanting to push too hard. That's all except, of course, for Greg Moore, who's pulled away now. He's 3.4 seconds in the lead, and he's only about 100 yards short of some of the tail-end cars, the first of which will be Arndt Meyer in the Lola.
Looking at Scott Pruitt, Alanza Jr. going through the picture there at the moment. Pruitt's running in 12th place. He's running the silver car this year. It's a new sponsor on that car, so we've got to get used to a different look. Scott Pruitt just in the front of the picture, then Alanza Jr. currently in 13th place in this brand new Penske, the PC27, built, developed from the base in Poole in Dorset, and I know they'll all be watching down there, cheering the Penskes on. Ribeiro running in 2nd position at the moment, Alanza Jr. down in 13th.
Yeah, great effort by that Penske team. They've worked so hard on this car over the winter. They've certainly had some teething problems, some reliability problems with that car during the early gestation period for it, but they've made a lot of progress. And John Travis, I was speaking to him just down on the grid, he's very happy indeed. I mean, the car's already shown that it's fast, with Andre Ribeiro qualifying there on the front row of the grid.
And he's managing to maintain that pace. That's the important thing, Jeremy. He's still in 2nd position, although I have to say Greg Moore is pulling away a little bit, the lead up to just over 3 seconds. But remember, in this form of racing, it's all about how the car handles over a stint. By a stint, I mean the run-up to the first pit stop. Now, the total distance here, 150 laps. That means they'll be making. Their first stops around the lap 50 mark, second stop around lap 100, and then through to the checkered flag. That, of course, is if we don't have too many yellow flags, and I should imagine we will have one or two throughout the course of the afternoon. But it's the performance of that car throughout all 50 laps that matters.
Yeah, there is Michael Andretti there with actually Christian Fittipaldi challenging him on the outside there. They both had to get past the slower car of Arndt Meyer. They managed to do that. And there is a battle for third place. That's Zanardi on the left of the screen and the two Newman Haas cars of Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi.
Now look at this, Andretti beginning to line up Zanardi, looking for a chance to pick up the slipstream and dive underneath him into turns 3 and 4. It didn't happen there, but coming around to finish another lap. Just crossing the line for lap number 14, and as they cross the line you can see the fastest man on that lap, you can see the arrows coming up, was in fact Gilles de Ferran. Set the fastest average speed on that last lap. Second fastest was Jimmy Vasser. Those two are battling for 7th position, and Greg Moore setting the third fastest time. Andretti had a look down the inside of Alex Zanardi there for third place, but it didn't quite come off. But Andretti is looking very determined even in these early stages. Christian Fittipaldi's shadowing his every move.
Lurking, isn't he? A good run there Michael Andretti had down the back straightaway, but he wasn't able to make that pass into the corner, and that's pretty interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of that this afternoon. You have to get right alongside and pass someone really before you turn into the corner. You know, last year they were braking for these turns, they were much tighter. This year they're really not. They're just lifting off the throttle really, and there's not much slowing down required at all for these turns. They're awfully fast.
Also catching up a little bit to Andre Ribeiro. You can just get a view of the red and white Penske just ahead of Alex Zanardi. You're on board with Michael Andretti at the moment. The car ahead of you is the reigning champion Alex Zanardi, and then Andre Ribeiro is just a little further ahead. There he flashes through. Bit of traffic to deal with for Ribeiro as well, and that's making life a touch more difficult. They've got Hiro Matsushita that they're trying to get past in this little group, and this is where opportunities will develop. There is Ribeiro, number 3. Alex Zanardi is going to move up into second position. Zanardi into second now, and Michael Andretti looking to find a way past the Penske. Perhaps the Penske is not going to work so well on the run. He keeps it in tight. He allows Andretti the outside line. Christian's trying to come down on the inside, and suddenly Ribeiro is just not able to maintain this front-running sort of pace, and he's dropping back down the order.
That pass by Christian Fittipaldi was effective really by Andre Ribeiro having to lift off going into turn 1. When Zanardi, there is Adrian Fernandez, and there's Gilles de Ferran going through the middle of the both of them.
So Gilles de Ferran takes 2 cars in one go, and de Ferran gets past Fernandez as a result of that great piece of opportunist driving, and that is what racing on the oval tracks is all about. And now Adrian Fernandez finds himself chasing after the Valvoline car. We've got news that Ribeiro's coming in, Ribeiro into the pit lane, and obviously in bigger trouble than even we expected as he makes his way round towards the Penske pit, up at the top end of the pit lane there. Oh no, what a shame to see him pulling in so early. Such a great job in qualifying yesterday to put it on the front row. It wasn't really expected in the practice sessions. Both cars weren't that much on the pace. There's gone for a tyre change now. Are they going to make any other changes, or was it a puncture? Maybe he picked up a puncture or some such problem, because there's certainly no other fiddling going on with the car. It looks as though it was just some sort of tyre problem with that car.
Yeah, and he has lost a lap by making that pit stop, and he's still there. He's chugging down the pit lane. I use the word chugging because he's at 60 miles an hour is the speed limit in pit lane. He's now back up to speed going around the warm-up lane to get back up onto the racetrack, but he is more than a lap down. He's actually rejoining the racetrack shortly behind his teammates, but way down now the order, and pretty much out of contention. I think that's early, very early to make a pit stop. He's going to have an awfully tough time making it up from there.
Now you're riding on board with Bobby Rahal, who's running quite a long way down the order at the moment, and struggling to get back on the pace. He's running down in 19th position, as you saw there, and Bobby obviously struggling. You can hear a little bit from his radio communications. We're going to try and pick that up as we go throughout the course of this race, but it's a little bit difficult to hear when they're travelling at well over 200 miles an hour. Involved in a little battle there, and you've got a view of JJ Leto in the Hogan car up on the outside there, and in fact running a little bit too wide, if anything, as he came through turns 1 and 2.
You remember that's exactly what that car did last year with Dario Franchitti. He was running very well in the early stages, and then finally he was actually making room for the race leader and ran too wide in turn 2 and hit the wall.
So JJ having his first ever experience of driving on an oval track, just settling his way in at the moment. to see the Finnish driver over here. Such a talent, never really got his opportunity in Grand Prix racing. Raced for 5 years in Formula 1. Now we switch, and this is on board Richie Hearn. Richie, a part of that group down at towards the back of the field there, around 20th position at the moment for Richie Hearn. In fact, just passed by JJ, and he's having a little bit of a dice. So this Budweiser sponsored car now, the car of Richie Hearn, it's a Swift chassis, the third Swift out there now. There's one customer car, but you have to say that Reynard's did a great job over the winter of maintaining so many of their teams as customers. The Bicester-based manufacturer, the English chassis, again have done a great job, and they provide the majority of cars in this championship field. But Richie Hearn with the Swift chassis, they're running that car on Firestone tyres, and that's the first time that the Swift chassis has been run on that type of tyre. Goodyear's still ruling the roost for Newman Haas. Now there's a view of Andre Ribeiro, the man who dropped back down the field after he came into the pits. And if we look down the order now, he's in 28th position. But our race leader is Greg Moore. He's just pulled away gradually from the start of this race. He's 4.6 seconds ahead of Alex Zanardi already. And what tremendous pace this Canadian is showing. The youngest ever pole sitter he became yesterday, already the youngest ever winner. He's looking good out front at the moment. Well, still leading this race after 30 laps of the 150 and still managing to pull away. Just extending his advantage bit by bit. 7.6 seconds it's up to now, though, so it's not just a little bit. That's a big advantage for Greg Moore in these early stages, but there have been changes. Jimmy Vasser you ride with now, chasing after Adrian Fernandez. But let me tell you that Gilles de Ferran has been the main man on the move, because he's now fourth ahead of Christian Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi seems to be struggling a bit, and there he is, second car in your picture. Lapped car just about, well, car about to be lapped by this group, and then behind them you've got Adrian Fernandez, the green and red car you can see in your picture, and then Jimmy Vasser, the 1996 champion, the winner here in 96 as well, right behind them. So this is a great group. Look at this. Oh, Fittipaldi covering the inside as Fernandez tries to go for it, and Adrian Fernandez is just rejuvenated by this change of team as he's gone to Patrick Racing. Last year, of course, he finished off with a great third place at Fontana, but he did pick up the pieces a little bit in that race. Right now, this weekend, Adrian's looking fantastic, really on the pace. The car's performing well, and he's back to his days of 95, 96.
And there is a pass for position there. That is Michael Andretti getting second place from Alex Zanardi as they go into the turn. And
we've got a yellow flag, and we have a shunt for Tony Kanaan. It's Tony Kanaan in the Tasman Motorsports car, one of the rookies this year, and well, we've managed to make it through to lap number 33 before anyone's come off the track or hit the wall, but now we have the first contact. Tony Kanaan has wiped off the right front, and it's out of turn number 4. It seems to be the favourite spot for all of them this weekend. We saw Helio Castroneves, his former teammate and rival in the Indy Lights Championship, crash there on Friday. Let's take a look, see if we can spot it. Picking the cars up through, there he is, the back end got away, very similar to Helio Castroneves, although it broke away a little earlier in the corner, and he didn't hit the wall quite so hard as Helio did on Friday afternoon. But that marks the end of Tony Kanaan's debut in the kart championship.
Yeah, Castroneves actually 137 Gs recorded that impact. Not so much for Kanaan, he seems okay.
Period comes out in 4th place. The Forsyth Racing team not getting that car out as fast as they had hoped, and that could change the complexion of this race. Zanardi leads them round. We've now got the cars that were a lap down who are now being allowed into the pits, but Zanardi is the man who's just benefited from another great stop from the Ganassi crew.
Yeah, tremendous effort by Rob Hill and that crew. The car number 1, of course, the reigning champions car. What a great effort that was.
Just a little pit report going on there, which is explaining there was a problem with the jack on Greg Moore's car. Let's take a look at exactly what happened. The jack not going under, not lifting the car properly, and of course remember it's an onboard jack. The airline going into the top of the car should jack the car up. They had to use the manual jacks to get the wheels off the ground. That was what the problem was. So disaster for Greg Moore, the race leader, on dashboard jack's just not working, and look how much time it cost him. Carl's pouring past him, and in fact he's more than third down. It was Carpentier who's come out ahead. So in fact Greg has lost more ground than we even thought at that point. We saw one of the players' cars coming out, but it was Carpentier, and Greg Moore is now well down the field.
15th position, in fact. By contrast, his teammate Patrick Carpentier, as you say, he came out in 4th position, which is a remarkable effort there. Moved up 4 places. A lot of shuffling there in those pit stops, and they are so crucial, and just really bad luck for Greg Moore. He's been running so strongly here, and I'm certainly not going to count him out yet. He's been running so well here all weekend, and the confidence is up. You remember a couple of years ago here on his debut, he actually lost a lap. He was penalised for passing the pace car. As he came into the pit lane, he actually moved past the pace car, which was out on the track, got penalised, lost a lap, made up that lap. He passed the race leader, Jimmy Vasser, and in a sensational debut for Greg Moore, and he can do it, no question about it. 15th is a long way to go, but don't count him out just yet.
There is a quick view of Mark Blundell. Mark's had a bit of a slow start, but he's made up some ground courtesy of that pit stop. He's now up to 10th position. In fact, Dario Franchini's also gained from that first round of stops. Good effort there from Team Cool Green, because they've got him out in 8th place. And that's good to see, and that is an area where Dario may benefit this year. The Hogan Racing team last year was a very hastily assembled crew, a little bit inexperienced in some ways. It took them some time to get their pit stops right. That shouldn't be the case this year with Barry Green's outfit, would you say, Jeremy? They should be slick, they should be good at getting the 2 cars, both him and Paul Tracy, back out quickly.
Plenty of experience there, Ben, no problems at all, and they work very well together. The cruiser, they're fired up. Barry Green is convinced he has his chemistry, as he called it, the teamwork there. Everybody works together, they're pulling the same direction. He's very confident that he has exactly what it takes to be a championship contender this season. Sure, they were struggling in practice and perhaps in qualifying, but they're both still on a lead lap now. They're running well, they're running strongly, and there's a long way to go in this race, let alone the whole season, of course.
So Dario in 8th place, Paul Tracy in 12th, just one ahead of Maurizio Guterman, in fact, who's in 13th place. Surprised to see him so far down. And Alonso Jr. running in 14th, and Greg Moore in 15th, and he's come back into the pits again. Now I wonder what's going on here for Greg. Maybe they didn't manage to get the wheels on properly as a result of that jack problem. See if we can see what goes on as he comes back into the pit lane. As though there's a few checks going on.
They're going to try and fix that, Jackson. They're going to find out what's wrong. He was almost at the back of the pack of the cars on the lead lap in any case, so really not a lot to lose by coming in again, checking what see where they can find out what the problem was. Maybe they can fix it, and at least that way he'll be able to make faster pit stops for the next probably 2 stops. I think they'll probably have to stop twice more before this race was over. They could theoretically do the distance on 2 stops, but more than likely most teams were reckoning on 3 stops during the race. There is that crew hard at work there. Chris Schofield and the boys, and the race leader, or the pace car, is coming through turn 4. Another 5 or 6 or 7 seconds, and they're going to have to be on their way if they don't want to lose a lap here.
Yeah, they're watching. You can see the guy at the front. He's watching to see when the pace car's coming round. Greg's got to get out ahead of the pace car to make sure he can join the back of the queue behind the pace car as the yellow flag stays out. And he's made it. He's made it out of the pit lane. He's ahead of the pace car, so he'll be able to catch up to the back of the field and not lose too many places as a result. It's completed now out of the 150 under the first caution period of the day, courtesy of an accident to Tony Kanaan. Tony out of the car, perfectly safe. We're taking a look here at Patrick Carpentier, not Greg Moore. Greg Moore, the early leader in this race, has dropped right to the tail of the field now. Well, not quite the tail, because he's ahead of some of the other guys who've got lapped. He's now in 17th place, Greg Moore. But Carpentier is right up there in 4th place.
Yeah, Moore is, in actual fact, he's not the last of those on the lead lap now, because the cars that were between the pace car and the race leader included Andre Ribeiro, who had made that stop earlier on, did not need to take on more service now. He stayed down on the racetrack, has been waved around the pace car, so that when we get ready for the restart, the race leader, Alex Zanardi, will be at the front of the pack. So Andre Ribeiro has made his way around, he's rejoined the back of the pack, and he is actually in 18th position, the last car on the lead lap.
So on board with Michael Andretti, you've got Alex Zanardi and Gilles de Ferran ahead, and they're going to be coming round to the green flag. This is where the cat and mouse begins. Let's just watch. Zanardi begins to accelerate. The other two try and time it perfectly to accelerate at the same time, but Zanardi has played the game well. Look, he's got a bit of an advantage already as they come blasting under full acceleration of their over 800 brake horsepower across the line, but Gilles de Ferran's got a good run on him. Gilles de Ferran's timed it beautifully, and Gilles de Ferran goes into the lead. himself back in third position again.
Once again, Alex Zanardi had to lift off just a fraction going into turn one. Michael Andretti, no way. Flat out, he saw his opportunity there, and he had to be patient. He had to wait almost a mile until they got down the end of the back straight, but he had position on Alex Zanardi. So now we have two Goodyear cars at the front of the pack. It was led by the Firestone car early on of Greg Moore, then Alex Zanardi, but now two Goodyear cars, that is Gilles de Ferran and Michael Andretti at the front of the field.
Yeah, that's interesting. The last 11 races last year were won by Firestone tyres. Goodyear are determined to get back at them. The battle, as it is in Formula One, very intense between the two tyre manufacturers, and Goodyear will be delighted right now. Watch Brian Herter there. Oops, Herter trying to get past Tracy, and that was a little bit close between the two of them. Paul Tracy running in 10th place, Brian Herter in 11th, battle for position there, and Paul Tracy, who did at last find something wrong. The team found some of the cause for the understeer that he's been struggling over the last couple of days. I spoke to Barry Green this morning after the warm-up, and he said, yes, we think we have found something now.
Yeah, they haven't really found anything wrong. They just found out what Tracy likes on the car. Before they were just sort of massaging the car, just making small changes, trying to get it within the realm, so to speak, that Tracy liked. But he wanted big changes. He wanted much more than that. They made a huge change. John Dick, the race engineer, told me this morning, they said normally if the sort of scale of things is a 1, this was a scale of a 10 in terms of the change on that car. And finally, it's how Paul Tracy liked to drive that car.
Well, that's an interesting point, because earlier on in testing, he and Dario Franchitti were saying how much they like the same setup, and yet maybe that's not quite the case when it really comes down to it.
Diametrically opposed setups, I'm told, on these two cars, at least on this kind of a racetrack. Maybe the road courses will be a little bit different.
Well, we'll have to wait and see as we go to the road courses later in the year. The season's starting off with a few oval track races. We start off with this one, and then, of course, switch to the next race at Montaigne. And Michael Andretti there just making his way up through the field, running in second position still at the moment, and chasing after Gilles de Ferran. A great battle. Christian Fittipaldi, that is, in fact, we're looking at now with the bright yellow crash helmet. He's running in 5th position, and he's been consistently near the front. We must keep an eye on Greg Moore, our early race leader. He's down in 16th position at the moment, but we will keep an eye on his progress and let you know is whether he's able to make up a lot of ground. Also keep an eye on Scott Pruitt. He moved up from 11th place before the pit stops up to 5th. He's now back down to 6th position, with Scott Pruitt also making up a tremendous amount of ground on that opening pit stop. Up front at the moment, though, it's Gilles de Ferran. This is the 3rd race in succession here at Homestead that he's led. He really has had some good runs here in the past, but it hasn't come through, well, certainly not last year. He did finish 2nd here in 1996, but Gilles de Ferran, having led the race on 3 occasions now, would just love to take the win. Didn't win any races last year, and he wants to redress the balance. Looking at the moment, though, at Christian Fittipaldi, who's up past Patrick Carpentier now. Carpentier's dropped back down to 5th position, the 2nd of the Forsyth racing cars, and they're like Barry Green, I think, Jerry Forsyth, feeling that the only way to run really competitively in this championship now is to run a 2-car team. It's so vital to have the feedback from 2 drivers when you're going out there to try and win the championship.
Yeah, and particularly when they have driving styles that seem to complement one another, as the 2 Forsyth teammates seem to have. Certainly on this occasion, the Team Cool Green perhaps not the case, but I think later in the season we'll find them all working together and being able to take advantage of improvements made from one car and then translate those over to the other car.
Interesting battle there was going on. Carpentier getting back past a moment ago. There's Scott Pruitt, Adrian Fernandez and Dario Franchitti running in 6th, 7th and 8th places. Franchitti looking very good behind Adrian Fernandez at the moment, just closing up that gap a little bit more as he chases after them. Both of them are in the Reynard chassis. Both have the Firestone tyres, but it's a Ford engine in the back of Adrian Fernandez's car now. The switch to Patrick Racing sees him powered by a Ford. Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti powered by a Honda engine this year. So Franchitti goes past Michel Jourdain, Jourdain being lapped by those two. And Jimmy Vasser running in. Oh, look how close they get. It's amazing how close they get around these corners. Remember, they're doing nearly 200 miles an hour, even in race trim, through these corners.
Yeah, in qualifying through turn 1 and 2, Greg Moore was, I didn't think he'd be dropped below about 204, 205 miles miles an hour through the middle of the corner. Certainly they're not doing those speeds now, but they're still pretty impressive speeds, aren't they, Ben?
It is incredible when when you think about it just for a moment, take time out to think over 200 miles an hour through a corner. What is going on with these machines? And the forces, of course, on the cars and on the drivers are very intense. You'll see from the head-on shot that we get a couple of times down the straights how the driver's head is angled over to his left. That's because they actually put more foam on the right-hand side of the cockpit coaming. And that's to absorb some of that G, that lateral G that the driver's head undergoes through these turns, up to nearly 4G cornering force. And you're on board at the moment as Gilles de Ferran goes through that cornering force, going past Arndt Meyer, lapping the German driver, the only Lola in the field there. But there's good reports from the Walker Racing crew. We've just heard from the pit lane that they are very, very happy with the way this car's performing, particularly in traffic. That's the word from the pit crew. And Gilles de Ferran very, very pleased at the moment, but Michael's not far behind him.
No, and that's the key, of course. The two keys really to this race. One, perhaps, is looking after the tyres, make sure that the tyres stay consistent through a full stint. And the second thing, of course, is, as you say, getting through the traffic. And certainly we look at there at Michael Andretti's car. There, though, is Alex Zanardi in third place. There is Gilles de Ferran, there is Michael Andretti, and there is Alex Zanardi through turn 1.
So what a tremendous battle we're seeing, and in terms of the manufacturers, it's a good battle. We've got the Goodyears first and second, Firestone third. We've got a Honda engine leading, a Ford engine second, Honda third, and our first Mercedes-Benz power unit now down in fifth place, thanks to Patrick Carpentier. They took the front row here. They took a 1-2 in qualifying, but Gilles de Ferran there just going past Hiro Matsushita again to put another lap on him. Alex Zanardi has definitely closed back up to the tail of Michael Andretti. Now I wonder if he can use the fact that we've got the Japanese racer ahead to try and make a move on Michael. Well, no, Michael gets through safely in the black car. Michael Andretti in second position. Alex Zanardi chasing after him in the red and yellow target colours. The reigning champion going after Michael Andretti, the former champion back in 1991. Now then, the restart saw Alex Zanardi just get blasted past by Gilles de Ferran and Michael Andretti. The crew, we just had word from the pit lane, and Chip Ganassi saying that Alex reported over the radio he just fell asleep on the restart. That's his excuse. Not much of an excuse really, is it, Jeremy?
Not really at 200 miles an hour. Don't think you really want to be falling asleep. I don't think you're likely to be falling asleep at 200 miles an hour. There's some action down there in turn 1, but there goes Michael Andretti, and there is Alex Zanardi behind him. Zanardi wants to redress the balance there. That one mistake, of course, cost him a couple of positions, but he's still right in the thick of this thing as they come up to lap one of the Eagle Toyoters, and it's Alex Barron who waves Michael Andretti past on the inside, then tucks across to take the line through turns 3 and 4.
I have to say, watching degree of patience to run on these oval tracks now is something that he's perhaps learned in the 3 years that he's been racing here in the United States. A degree of patience, you've got to have that, particularly in the early stages. We're only just a little over at 1/3 distance completed here at Homestead as we now ride on board Bobby Rahal. Rahal at the moment is still quite a long way down the order. He's running in, let's have a look, 23rd position, so hasn't started off too well for Bobby today, his final season. And there's a look at Mark Blundell as well. He's in 14th position at the moment, one behind Greg Moore, who has moved up a little bit. He's now into 13th place, Greg Moore. But Mark Blundell running in the 1997 Reynard, remember, with 1997 Mercedes power, as is Maurizio Gugelmin, the two Pac West teammates. The whole team deciding to go for last year's package, which was so well proven, taking the win in the last race at Fontana and doing so well in the last few races. The win in Vancouver for Maurizio Gugelmin very much towards the end of the season as well. And they reckoned that it was safer to go for that last season's package, but I have to say the new package is looking very good as well. Both engine and chassis. The Reynard 98 chassis is leading at the moment. It's got Honda power of Gilles de Ferran, but the Mercedes-Benz power unit of 1998, this new small engine which has managed to go on a diet of some 18 kilos it's lost over the winter. This brand new power unit certainly providing the engine power. Now then, let's go back to what's happening up front. The leaders are in traffic again. Gilles de Ferran still with the advantage over Michael Andretti.
Yeah, who just dived there past Elio Castroneves going into turn 1. Another slower car in front of him here. Not sure whether it might have been Roberto Moreno, but they are working their way through some traffic, and there goes down the inside of actually JJ Leto is Michael Andretti, makes that pass cleanly, and there, just ahead of him there, is Gilles de Ferran, the race leader. We've got 64 laps on the board, 65 as they flash across here.
So it's a great battle we're seeing here, and Michael really reeling in Gilles de Ferran on this last lap. Look at this. He's close right up behind the Brazilian, and he's surely going to have a go as they go into turn number 3 at the end of the backstretch. Michael Andretti takes the lead for the first time in this race. The winner here at Homestead last season, the Swift chassis working well, and he's now gone ahead.
Interesting to stay on board here with Gilles de Ferran there, because certainly Michael just flew up on him there and went straight past him. No problems at all. There wasn't really any traffic in Gilles de Ferran's way, but the car seemed to be handling okay. It seemed to be pretty neutral. Not much of a turn, not much movement on the steering wheel there for Gilles de Ferran as he went into turn 1. And there is Dario Franchitti maybe a move around about Adrian Fernandez. I think actually might have been, not sure whether it's Paul Tracy or Dario. The scoring has been a bit strange here. Tracy, they were showing for a while as being a lap down. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I think that is a battle for 7th position on the racetrack.
So the Team Green cars beginning to move up as they go through this second stint. Michael Andretti, though, is now the race leader, and it's something he's accustomed to here at Homestead. He led some 72 laps here last year, and that was remarkable because he'd moved up from 14th position on the grid. Fantastic performance. This is a replay now, a replay of how he took the lead, and it was really very easy.
Yeah, the move started really way before that, of course. I don't know whether maybe Gilles de Ferran got a little bit sideways coming off turn 2, had to lift off the throttle, but certainly Michael Andretti was able to carry much more momentum onto the back straightaway and make the pass cleanly into turn 3.
And now just going past some of the back markers. Look at the speed advantage that he has over some of the slower cars.
Yeah, Hiro Matsushita there. Now he's got to slow right down for Arndt Meyer, who's in the middle of the road there. And Andretti stays calm, wait till Meyer moves out of the way and then decides to on the inside. Cool, calm, collected driving there by Michael Andretti. He's an experienced campaigner. He is a master of these oval tracks, as he showed last year, of course. There is Michel Jourdain Jr., who's just come out of the pits. He's made 3 or 4 unscheduled stops. And again, Andretti passed there cleanly. Beautiful drive here from Michael Andretti.
Great chance to watch the onboard action. Just listen to that V8 Ford engine working hard. Back on the power hard. There's only a little bit of a fractional lift into these corners, even in race trim. Let's just listen again into turn 3. Picking up the throttle again midway through the corner, and Michael Andretti is just smoothly pulling away from Gilles de Ferran at the moment. The gap is up over 2 seconds. It's up over 3.5 seconds now. In fact, he's just put in a couple of very quick laps indeed, Michael Andretti, and you're riding with a man who looks set to pull out an extensive advantage in this second stint. From the onboard camera, this tremendous facility here at Homestead, one of the most up-to-date facilities on the whole trail of the kart championship. You're now on another onboard camera. This is onboard with Scott Pruitt, looking back at Adrian Fernandez, but look who's coming up on the outside.
Yeah, Greg Moore around the outside of Adrian Fernandez, and these 2 Patrick Racing cars. There is one of the Team Cool Green cars of Paul Tracy. In fact, they were having a good battle. There goes Moore past Scott Pruitt. Superb, no problems at all for Greg Moore. Beautiful driving.
Great stuff, and as you say, just ahead of them, the 2 Team Green cars, Franchitti and Tracy. Franchitti's just ahead of Tracy, so this is Moore going past Paul Tracy and moving up into what is now 7th position. Greg Moore is flying once again here, and there's nobody who's quite matching his sheer pace. Dario Franchitti will be the next one on his list, as Greg Moore just tries to make up for that disappointment of the first pit stop, where the onboard jacks failed and they had to revert to using the manual jacks. But Greg Moore now closing up. There's Dario Franchitti. He's just gone past the yellow car of Arndt Meyer, that Lola chassis, but we've got a yellow. The yellow flags are out, so I don't know why as yet. Let's see if we can spot the reason as I look around the track. May just be debris. Let's have a look. The debris flag's not flying though, so somebody must be pulled off or something somewhere. A little bit difficult to see exactly what's going on at the moment as we take a view of the track.
Got got a pretty good view from here, haven't we, Ben? Right up on top of this fantastic grandstand at the Miami-Dade Homestead Motorsports Complex. We can't see anything wrong. We're hearing a report that perhaps somebody brushed the wall.
Right, it sounds as though somebody hit the wall, but so the yellows were thrown. They are very quick to throw the yellow if any contact is made. We've got a replay of what could have caused this yellow flag coming up for you. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, yes, now that's why we have a yellow flag, and I think they were fully justified in pulling a yellow. Can we see?
It's one of the team called green cars. I'm not sure whether that was Paul Tracy or Dario Franchitti. I think it was probably Paul Tracy, because we saw the number 27 car of Dario Franchitti actually had a little Dayglow badge on the nose of that car, and he was just ahead of Paul Tracy. So I think it was Paul Tracy there, way up in the grey. And he'll presumably be coming into the pits any moment now.
Well, it looks as though Paul got away with it. I mean, he's had his moments, hasn't he, on the oval tracks in the past, but it looks as though Paul Tracy actually got away with that moment. The yellow flag is coming out because race directors thought that this was an accident happening. Somehow or other, Paul just managed to squeak round. I think it might have just adjusted his toe-ins a little bit. The suspension maybe tweaked a little bit, but he seems happy enough. He hasn't come into the pits, so presumably he's happy to continue.
Brilliant save by Paul Tracy. You know, he'll be enthused right now. He knows his car's running pretty well. He'd moved up there from that horrendous starting position of 21st, which was actually the second worst in his entire career. He started 25th at Indianapolis one year after having a crash in practice and missing the first day of qualifying. Other than that, this was his worst ever qualifying performance. So for the car to be running well now, that's good news for Paul Tracy, and particularly as he was able to keep it off the wall there.
You might be wondering what that big plus sign means. Well, it means the pit lane is now open for drivers on the lead lap. We've now completed 76 laps. Interesting to see if they're coming in now. Their first stop was around lap 33, 34, remember, which was a bit early. They may well take advantage of this yellow flag to come in the pits. It looks to me as though Michael is making his way in, but Gilles is deciding to stay out there. Now we've got some change in strategies as they come round this time, and that's interesting to watch. Michael Andretti definitely deciding to come into the pits and make his second stop, but Gilles de Ferran has decided to stay out there. And a few different opinions, obviously, amongst the teams as to what the best tactics at this point in the race really should be. So Michael heads his way down to the Newman Haas pit. I see Christian Fittipaldi following him in as I look across from our vantage point here atop the grandstand. Michael comes into the pits for his stop. Alex Zanardi's a little further down, so it takes him longer to get to his pit bay, and then the battle on between the two pit crews. Now Michael tries to get out safely. That's okay. Not too much traffic around. I can see Alex's car's finished. Oh, Alex has been held up. Alex has been held up getting out of the pit lane by one of the Pac West cars, and that cost him some time. I think he's managed to get away with it. It was Gugelmin and Blundell. I think it was Mark himself who blocked Zanardi, but he couldn't do anything about it because Mark Blundell, there he is, having service his pit bay right in front of Alex Zanardi's. He had to pull in front of Zanardi, and Zanardi just had nowhere to go. He couldn't get out, and so it all went a little bit wrong for both crews in that case, and I think that's cost Mark a fair bit of time.
Yeah, he was kind of lucky there. He had to be able to make service. He was in at a very strange angle there in the pits, and what you try to do is park the car on the mark, so to speak, which is parallel to the pit wall, so that there is uninterrupted flow of fuel into that car and easy access for the fueler, the refueler, but certainly some problems there. But they're able to get going, and no major dramas. At least he's able to get going without losing too much time. He's still on a lead lap.
So all change. Gilles de Ferran is now our race leader as he's decided not to come into the pits. Michael's dropped back into second place now. Sitting there a little while now, and it looks as though it could all be over for Paul Tracy, the man who caused the yellow flag just now when he brushed against the wall, and perhaps there was some damage done.
Yeah, I think they must have been to the right-hand side of the car, which is where they seem to be working. Now the car comes down off the jacks, but they're still working on that car, on the car number 26. That is Paul Tracy, as we are on board with the race leader Gilles de Ferran. Of course, he now has a light tank of fuel, or considerably less fuel than most of the other contenders. Let's see if he can make advantage of that and pull away from this field.
Yes, that's right. He's going to need to, isn't he? Because otherwise he's going to find himself in deep trouble if he has to stop under green flag race conditions and everyone else gets a chance. They've already stopped under yellow flag, but he may be able to space the stops well, and that could, of course, make it all the way the difference towards the end of the race. He says he needs to make it to lap number 95, apparently, according to our pit reports.
Well, that'll be interesting. If he can do that, then he should be able to make it to the end of the field. And there's a Penske going slowly on the back straight away. I don't know whether he had some contact there coming off the corner, but I'm not quite sure which one it is. It's difficult to see from this far away. And there goes Andre Rivera. So it must have been Alex Jr. who had a problem coming off turn 2. But he is seemingly up to speed again. He's been passed actually by one of the Toyotas coming off the corner. So a problem there. But back to Gilles de Ferran, everybody is going to have to make one more pit stop. And if Gilles de Ferran reckons he can make it on that one stop and then still get to the end of the race, he could be in pretty good shape here.
Be an interesting situation. Now, we've just had a report from Paul Tracy. He's in the pits, and he said he just lost it, basically lost the car, ran wide when he touched the wall. Nothing he could do about it, make contact, and it is damage to the car that's caused him to be out of the race effectively. So bad news for Paul Tracy, who was charging his way back through the field. Dario Franchitti still running competitively though. He's in 5th position. Mark Blundell down in 14th position, and Alonso Jr. down in 12th place. He lost quite a few places as a result, Jeremy, of that moment that you saw him suffer.
Indeed, he lost 5 positions. In fact, back now to 12th place. Jimmy Vasser and Mark Blundell. Not sure why Jimmy Vasser dropped back, but he must have had a bad pit stop as well. I'm not sure that we see that. But certainly Mark Blundell, who had that elongated stop as well, so he is 14th and a last car shown on the lead lap at the moment.
Now then, don't discount Greg Moore still from this race. He's the second of the 2 blue and white cars in the picture because Patrick Carpentier is running 8th. Greg Moore is now 9th, so that gives him a great shot at closing up the gap. The early race leader, he'd pulled out an advantage of some 8 seconds before that first pit stop, which saw him in deep trouble with the jacks not working. Now, presumably, they got the jacks working okay because he lost no more time on that last pit stop, and it looks as though they've managed to repair it. So it was a good choice, a good decision for him to come back into the pits after that first problem, repair it, and get it back out again. And it does seem to be working as he makes his way back into the top 10 now.
Yeah, he's almost 3 laps behind. I guess he's almost 2 laps behind, so he's still just 1 lap down to the race leaders. But there is one of the players' cars. That is Greg Moore, who is really on a charge once again. He's up into 8th place now. There is Adrian Fernandez ahead of him on the racetrack.
Let's go down to the pits now.
This event, and I know this is disappointing, but fortunately, you've just been released from the safety center. How do you feel?
I'm okay. Actually, I'm very disappointed because I'm looking to finish this race to my guys. They had a bad year last year, but actually the car was running good until we picked up a lot of loose in number 2, actually number 3 and 4. And one of the laps I got Alonso Jr. in front of me, and he had a big moment as well. So and I back off too much, and I got the big loose and spun, and unfortunately crashed. So we're looking for the next one. It's still 18 to go. I'll be fine.
All right, thank you, Tony. Talk about a steep learning curve. The rookie just got his first taste of concrete in southern Florida.
So Tony Kanaan there, the man who caused the first yellow flag when he made contact with the wall. Great to see that he's okay, and he'll be back out in the next race at Montegui. That single car outfit now, Tasman Motorsports, great team, and he's a very promising young driver, even if he's ended this race rather too early. Adrian Fernandez, you're watching at the moment in the Tecate-sponsored green and red machine. The Mexican running in 7th place, and he's got Greg Moore not too far behind. There's a lapped car between them, but then it's Greg Moore still on the chase. PJ Jones just behind, and Fernandez putting a lap on Bobby Rahal there. He really is struggling this afternoon, Bobby.
It's a shame, isn't it? He's now 3 laps behind in 22nd position. He's made a couple of unscheduled stops. His teammate, however, Brian Herder, is inside the top 10. He's actually running in 9th place, 1 position behind Greg Moore. So Herder having a good run, but teammate Bobby Rahal struggling. Shame.
Now, Gilles de Ferran should be coming into the pits within the next 3 laps or so, and then hope to make it all the way through to the end of the race on that 1 tank full of fuel.
Yeah, the interesting thing, of course, when Gilles de Ferran comes into the pit stops with this 60-mile-an-hour limit, I'm pretty sure he's going to lose at least a lap. And that is going to be the problem for Gilles de Ferran. If he doesn't get a caution within the next 2 or 3 laps, and he's able to make this stop under caution, I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to lose a lap, and that is going to be awfully difficult to make up. Well, having said that, when everybody else stops, assuming there are no more cautions before then, or if there is another caution perhaps, he may well regain that lead lap, but it's a roll of the dice here. It's a tricky decision, and he's made it, and he's going to have to live with it, so he's going to have to drive as hard as he can. But there on his tail is Michael Andretti.
Yeah, Michael's certainly bearing down on him. Again, there's the two Goodyear tyred cars that are up front, and there's another Goodyear car in fourth place of Fittipaldi, so the tyre's working okay. But look at this, that was Gilles slow out of turn 2 again, and Michael's now got another good run, exactly as we saw before. Identical, look at that carbon copy of the passing manoeuvre he made on Gilles de Ferran before the last yellow caution period that we had. Michael retakes the lead, and we should be seeing Gilles come into the pits very, very soon now. Alex Zanardi chasing after him now to move up into second position, and the strategy game an important one here, and perhaps Gilles de Ferran has just leaned off that engine a little bit. Perhaps that's why he's a bit slower now, because they know they need to stretch the number of laps they can do at this point to be able to go through the rest of the race on one more pit stop. Strategy is such a part of this form of racing, and it makes it great fun too. It's hard for the team managers, it's hard for the engineers to make the right call, but it can make all the difference between winning and losing, and you don't really find out until the checkered flag comes out. So Zanardi moves up into second place now, de Ferran dropping back a little bit and heading for the pits within the next few laps. In fact, he may be coming in now. Yep, there he goes, heads into the pit lane, and this hopes Gilles de Ferran will be the last pit stop for him in this race. 96 laps completed, 97 now out of 150.
Yeah, and this will be a crucial stop, of course, for Gilles de Ferran there. You can see him pressing the button now for the speed limiter to keep that car down to 60 miles an hour as he comes down the pit lane. Boy, that feels like a snail's pace after you've been running at 200 miles an hour plus. But he's got to be patient. He brings the car into the pits, and now the crew will go to work.
Right on the button there where he stops, and the jack works okay, the team goes to work, the methanol fuel being pumped through into the fuel tanks there, and 35 gallons of fuel going in a very short space of time. So he goes back out again. Now, has he lost a lap as a result of that, Jeremy?
Yes, he has, Ben. He is a lap down. He is a lap down to Michael Andretti, and actually quite a few other cars as well. Of course, everybody else has to make that stop, and they'll be making that within the next 20 or so laps. So if it doesn't go yellow, then there is still hope for Gilles de Ferran. He's going to have to go now as fast as he possibly can, get it back up to speed and maintain a good pace. But, you know, we've seen already in this race, there is Michael Andretti diving inside Helio Castroneves and pushing him wide. Helio trying to keep it off the wall, just presses it.
Oh, look at that. Helio Castroneves, he must have a problem with the car. It's suddenly ran wide. Look, he's got a puncture on, his rear wings flapping around.
Yeah, I think he's got some damage to that car, and he did awfully well to keep control. You know, Michael Andretti, that was an awfully optimistic move, diving down to the inside there, and a bit dodgy. The yellow flag is out. There'll be some debris on the racetrack, I think, or at least they don't want to take the risk of there being any debris. So the yellow flag is out. That is bad news for Gilles de Ferran. In fact, he will be able to make up his lap now, because as everybody else come in the pits, he will stay out on the racetrack. He will be between the pace car and the race leader when the restart comes around and everybody else has made their pit stops. But he's still got an awful lot of work to do.
Yeah, isn't it a shame that didn't happen a lap or two earlier for Gilles? That would have helped his cause somewhat. But that's the way it goes. That's the view from on board Gilles' car, actually, just behind the front fin. Can't really call them wings as such. They're such small fins they run on these super speedway type tracks. Although this isn't a full super speedway, they run the same sort of aerodynamic setup with the little front fins very thin, and the rear wing is almost just a flat piece of tray virtually, just to give a little bit of downforce. So there's the car that caused this yellow flag, as Helio Castroneves, who suffered an accident on Friday, the young Brazilian, the protege of Emerson Fittipaldi, having a bit of a tough debut in the championship, and we've lost a couple of rookies already. Let's take a look. This is when Michael went down the inside. Michael was safe down the inside, but of course Helio now was in the grey, the marbles, where there's so little grip, and he just went wider and wider and wider. Now, did he actually make contact with the wall? Yes. The right rear made contact, certainly. The right front may have done. Difficult to tell in that picture, and that really has caused the problem for Helio Castroneves. It's just getting offline, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, once you get out of the groove, over the cushion, as they would say on the dirt, and there is a kind of a cushion here because there are some marbles offline, and it's awfully difficult. He did a very good job there to keep the car pointed straight and just very light glancing below there, so certainly not too much damage. And a very, very good job by this young Brazilian driver. And here we see Michael Andretti pulling off now into the pit lane, and all the other cars on the lead lap behind him.
Now this is a vital time, because this should be the last round of pit stops, and this could well decide the outcome of the race. Newman Haas crew will need to get Michael turned around as quickly as possible. Don't forget, Zanardi is behind him. Can't see him on this picture, but there is Zanardi, and we're going to compare the two. Zanardi getting very close to the back of Michael's car as they hit the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. That starts at the first pit bay up at the top end of the pit lane. Now Michael's pit is earlier than Alex's. Alex has to go right the way down to the end of the pit lane before he can stop. Michael in position there, and now the Zanardi crew go to work. Let's see how long it takes. Of course, with 35 gallons of fuel to go aboard, it's a longer stop than we would see in Formula 1, but that's a good stop from both teams. Look at that, 2/10 rather of a second between them, and Alex has just about gone. Look at Michael. Michael so nearly lost it coming out of the pit. He got completely sideways, and I don't quite know what he was thinking of doing, because Alex, he was running to try and get to the blend line first. That was what he was trying to do, but Alex was ahead of him. He was going to struggle there to get past him.
And once again, Target Chip Ganassi Racing able to get its man out of the pits ahead of his rivals. Fabulous work once again from Target Chip Ganassi Racing. And Michael Andretti has it all to do again. We've got 47 laps to go.
Position one on yellow. I had it, sir.
Well, he's going as fast as you are, Michael. This is a three-way battle you've got yourself into. Alex, yourself, and Greg, you're all running similar pace. He did ask how much fuel he can use, what the fuel strategy is going to be. They said, once it goes green, you can run full rich. So we're going to see a clean race to the end here, hopefully.
Yes, we are. It's going to be pretty exciting. All of these guys are quick. There is Greg Moore, car number 99, the early race leader, the pole sitter. And with that early messed up pit stop, you drop way back in the pack, but that crew, a fantastic job. There is how he's progressed back up through the field from 16th, and he is now in third position. He is on a charge. He is one of the quickest. He's probably the fastest car on the track. He's made some good passes out on the racetrack. He was 12th as we came up on lap 81. He was 12th, and by inside 4 or 5 laps he made his way up to 8th. He was running 7th before this pit stop, and great work there by Chris Schofield and the crew. They're up now in third place, and there is the car of Dario Franchitti. We're getting ready to go green. 105 laps on the board. This will be 106 completed.
Now Zanardi really bunched them up this time and then went for it, and it looks as though it's worked a bit better than it did last time. He gets away, but watch the battle for second. Greg Moore all over the back of Michael Andretti. Moore is in the blue and white car, winner of 2 races last year, including a tremendous battle with Michael Andretti at the Milwaukee Oval when Moore was leading. Andretti was chasing him down. Greg Moore drove superbly on that occasion, but Moore lost out there. And Christian Fittipaldi trying to come back at him as they go up the back stretch. Didn't quite manage it. Greg Moore certainly lost some pace, but watch Michael now. He's closed up to Alex and looking to go down the inside into turn number 1. He's got the inside line, and Michael retakes the lead again. Fantastic racing, and Alex Zanardi, there was nothing he could do about it. It was down the inside. It was too much. He couldn't shut the door by then, and good clean racing between these two. Good to see that.
Great stuff, wasn't it? Michael Andretti, again, a super run off turn 4, able to dive down the inside. He can carry more speed into the corners than can Alex Zanardi, and that was what made the difference there. Michael Andretti in the lead there, and 27.1 last time around. That's just around about 200 miles an hour average, and they go flash onto the back straight away. There is Michael Andretti, and the battle for second place now between Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore, and Christian Fittipaldi, and also in contention. He's been up there and thereabouts all day long. A little gap back then to Scott Pruitt. Let's just run down the audience for you a little bit. Behind Scott Pruitt, who is running 6th, sorry, yeah, it's there. Adrian Fernandez and Dario Franchitti, who actually lost a couple of places on the restart. Behind Franchitti is Brian Herder, Alanson Jr. running well, Mauricio Gujmin, Patrick Carponche, Mark Blundell, and the last car in the lead lap in 13th position is Gilles de Ferran, who, because he was way past the pace car, but he's at the back of the pack.
Let's go down to the pits now.
$1,000 worth of equipment. Well, here's why. Here, Helio Castro Neves, despite a crash in practice, in this crash here, you're getting a baptism of fire in kart competition.
Well, thank God at least this one wasn't too bad.
The first one on Friday was terrible, but unfortunately, because of the lead, the guy Michael was behind. I don't want to make a collision, and Tony said, "Hey, take care. There is a guy faster than you." So I tried to just open, and that's the problem.
Tony, you knew that it was going to be a learning curve. You knew that it was going to take some time, but you've got the patience.
Absolutely, because we still have very high expectations of Elio, and we knew the first race, regardless of what happened, was going to be a learning experience. What happened there, I get all the credit for. I told Elio to give Michael some room, and you know, I'll take credit for it. We just got a little high, trying to be a good guy.
Guys?
So it's interesting to see Tony Bettenhausen taking the blame for that one. But let me just tell you what's been going on amongst the leaders. One who's lost out a little bit in the last round, the last few laps, is Dario Franchitti. He's now dropped down to 9th position, which is a bit of a loss because he was in 5th when we got that restart underway. So Dario's not having such a good getaway. You're watching Alonso Jr. right behind Adrian Fernandez at the moment. Fernandez in the red and green. Alonso Jr., the veteran he is now. He might not be very old, but he's a veteran of this kind of competition. But look at this, he's looking very, very competitive now, and you've always got to watch Alonso Jr. in the latter stages of a race.
He is flying. At the last restart, it was only 3 or 4 laps ago. He's in 11th place. He's now up to 7th, and he is giving Adrian Fernandez all he can handle there. Fernandez is taking a protective line, let's say, through most of these corners, and if he can maintain that and keep his momentum up, then maybe he can stay ahead of Alonso Jr. But Unser's car looks also good through those corners right now at this stage in the race. Unser on Goodyear tyres, of course. Fernandez on the Firestones.
Yes, and Unser using the new Mercedes engine, the new smaller, lightweight version. Certainly seems to be providing plenty of power. You can see he's running a slightly wider, higher line in the corners, perhaps trying to avoid the turbulence from Adrian Fernandez's car, and that means that he can run about the same pace, but he's struggling now to find a way past. But I have to say it's refreshing to see Alonso Jr. up there in the top 10, being able to run with the front pace setters. Last year he had such a dire season, and particularly in the latter part of the year the car just did not want to perform, but now they're beginning to get back there, and Alonso Jr. running in 7th position. Hey, look how close he is to the back of Fernandez's car as they go down the back stretch. Scott Pruitt's only just ahead of them as well, and he got so close under the gearbox of Adrian Fernandez, but still not able to do anything about it.
No, and there is a battle for the lead there. There is the 3rd place car of Greg Moore. Right behind him, Christian Fittipaldi. Ahead of those two, as the yellow is out again, and we're looking around the racetrack, and again, I can't see anything just yet, but the pace car is out, and we've got, what now, 34 laps to go. We have a few laps under caution here. Still can't see any major problems, so probably somebody spotted a little bit of debris out on the racetrack. Mark Blundell, we gather, brushed the wall somewhere, and they will check that there is no debris on the racetrack. We'll have a pace car out here for probably 2 or 3 laps, and then have we got to fight to the finish of this race.
We certainly have. What a super race it's turning out to be. Great way to start the season. So competitive. It's really what we expected, I have to say, Jeremy. I mean, looking into this championship, we had no idea as to who's going to end up champion, and there we are. What a great mix we've got up at the front at the moment. Michael Andretti for Newman Haas in the Swift Ford on Goodyear tyres. Alex Zanardi in 2nd place for Target Chip Ganassi Racing in the Reynard with Honda Power and Firestone tyres. And then Greg Moore running in 3rd place in another Reynard, but with Mercedes Power and Firestone tyres.
There is Mark Blundell. No apparent damage to that car, but he'd actually just been passed, I think, by Gilles de Ferran. So whether that pushed Mark slightly offline and got him up in the grey stuff, whether he actually glanced or not, we're not quite sure. But he certainly didn't come into the pits that time around, and we'll see. He's just checking things out and making sure that there is nothing amiss on that car. If he feels any kind of vibration, he will be in the pits this time around. Assuming the pits are open. I can't quite see the board over there on that far side, but with a bit of luck he'll be okay and able to stay on the racetrack. He is in 13th position. Let's just run down it again. Michael Andretti in the lead, Alex Zanardi 2nd place, Greg Moore, Christian Fittipaldi, Scott Pruitt and rounding out the top 5 is Patrick Racing teammate Adrian Fernandez, Alonso Jr., Brian Herter, Dario Franchitti, settled down now in 9th place ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin and Patrick Capontier, and Gilles de Ferran and Mark Blundell in 13th place on the lead lap. 1 lap down, Richie Hearn, Roberto Moreno, JJ and Jimmy Vasser.
So interesting situation we've got at the moment. You can see as you look down the list that Mark Blundell in that 13th position. And you have to wonder at the moment, looking at where both Mauricio Gugelmin in 10th and Mark Blundell are, whether Pat West have made the right choice in going for last year's equipment. They're certainly running lower down than we would have expected on their performances at the end of last season. And they may just be thinking, well, I wonder if it's right. But don't forget, there's still a 500-mile race to come next. Down there at the back of the field, and Jimmy Vasser down there, although he's actually running in 16th position overall. He hasn't had quite such a good afternoon as I perhaps expected. I thought Jimmy would be running nearer the front throughout the course of this race.
So did he. Lost a lap fairly early on and has not been able to regain that.
Watching Adrian Fernandez now, the Mexican driver who raced in the UK many years ago now it was that he raced in the British Formula Ford Championship and then came back over to the Americas to race, and certainly has impressed many people with his performances.
John Village in the British Formula Ford did a good job over there. He certainly created a great impression of the team. He actually went over to England towards the end of last year to have a look around the Reynard factory, and went back to see John Village and reacquaint himself with that Formula Opel, Formula Vauxhall team, and they were thrilled that he was able to take that time to go see them. Good, really, really nice young man is Adrian Fernandez, and he's running beautifully this weekend in the top 6. That was his goal for this weekend. If he could finish in the top 6 or 8, he was going to be happy, and he's doing that right now.
And there is his teammate. You're on board with teammate Scott Pruitt. Remember, these two are new teammates this year for Patrick Racing. Raoul Bozell used to be teammate to Scott Pruitt, but he's now moved on from the championship. New sponsor, Vistion, is the sponsor now for Scott Pruitt, so he has an all-silver car, but it's certainly not a Silver Arrow, because in this case it's actually powered by a Ford engine, just to confuse the issue completely. But Scott Pruitt is running great today in 5th position. Had a good performance here last year as well when he finished in 5th place at the end of the race, so seems to go well on this Homestead Oval.
Always starts off the season well, does Scott Pruitt. His problem seems to be keeping that momentum up through the season. In fact, he's the only driver to have led the championship each of the past 3 years. And he's done that after the first 2 or 3 races at the beginning of the season, and after that he's had some problems and has faded back a little bit through the field. But that's what he wants to address. That's the problem he wants to address this season. He wants to maintain that form throughout the 19-race FedEx Championship Series.
Now, it looks as though we've only got the lap to go now. They should be seeing green next time around with a bit of luck, and so there wasn't any debris that we saw. Good view over the top. You can just see the infield loops that disappear on the infield there, and they'll be racing on that infield loop later in the year, not in these Formula cars, not in championship cars, but in GT cars. One of the rounds of the FIA GT Championship will be held on this Homestead track, but using the road course, which will involve a little bit of the outside track as well. That should be very interesting. Now then, let's get back to what's happening here, because Michael Andretti leads the field on lap number 121 as they come around this time with some 29 laps to go. Across the line, Andretti leads, and this should be now the run to the checkered flag in the season opener. Alex Zanardi runs in 2nd position, Greg Moore in 3rd, Christian Fittipaldi in the 2nd of the Newman Haas cars running in 4th, and they have to be the strongest team right now, although the 2 Patrick Racing cars of Pruitt and Fernandez running extremely well too.
One of the Penske's has slowed down on the back straight away. Maybe there's a gearbox problem. I think it actually is Alonso Jr. this time.
Yeah, there he is coming into the pits. Alonso Jr. has got some sort of difficulty. What a shame, because Al had been running competitively in this race, and it looks as though it could all be over. As you say, Jeremy, could be a gearbox problem. It is a brand new gearbox that they have this year, and they've had a few niggling troubles through testing, but whatever it is, it looks as though it's all over for Alonso Jr.
Yeah, what a great shame. What a super effort though by this team. It's a pretty radical gearbox that. It's a longitudinal box. The gears are aligned longitudinally with the chassis. Most of the Penske team actually pretty much pioneered the transverse gearbox, where the gear clusters go against, sort of parallel with the axle, let's say. And they've reverted to longitudinal style, but with the gear clusters ahead of the rear axle to keep the weight of the car more towards the centre, and it's a pretty radical concept, and they've had some problems with it, but it's such a shame because both those cars have shown well this weekend, so that at least is the good news. The car is fast, now they have to make it reliable.
Andre Ribeiro running down in 16th position as a result of Alonso Jr. coming into the pits, and that car now is indeed being pushed away as we look down to the pit lane. So it's all over for little Al, but Ribeiro's still out there, but he's some way down after his earlier problem. Now then, back with the leaders again. There seems to be a bit of a stalemate up front at the moment. Michael Andretti has got a lead of 1.2 seconds over Alex Zanardi. Third place for Greg Moore, and then fourth for Christian Fittipaldi. Last lap, the average speed saw Michael Andretti go fastest, but just interesting news from the pits. We did wonder how they'd managed to get Greg Moore out so quickly out of the pits last time. We thought they'd repaired the jacks, but the news from the pit lane is, in fact, they didn't bother to change the tyres. Now that is not such good news for Greg. It means that he's running on a set of tyres that's already done a full stint, and he's going to have to nurse them a little bit to the end of this race. So Greg Moore perhaps not in such good shape as we thought. And now you can see that Christian Fittipaldi is right behind him. Fittipaldi looking to move up into third position here, and he's got down the inside. Oh, look at this, side by side. Moore stays with him, tries to keep the line on the outside. Oh, that was great. He didn't get up into the marbles, but that was brave. You've seen for yourselves how slippery it is on the outside, what happened to Helio Castroneves, and yet Greg was able to stay with him. Now that was a brave piece of driving.
I'll say it was. At almost 200 miles an hour, he knows his tyres are... He has tremendous faith in his Firestone tyres, and that showed it there, didn't it? On the outside line, he was able to keep up the momentum. It was probably certainly preferred line into that corner, but it's still awfully gutsy. He's relying there on Christian Fittipaldi to not slide up and take the normal line through that corner. And Christian Fittipaldi, all credit to him as well, really to both guys there. Very smart piece of work by both of them, and they're able to keep their position. We're on board now with Gilles de Ferran. He gets a little bit there in the middle of turn 2, but he's running well as well. He's up into 8th place now, and he's just passed Dario Franchitti. He's got his sights set now on Brian Herter.
So the battle continues then, and interesting to see that battle between Fittipaldi and Greg Moore. That was great. And yellow, we've got yellow flags. And he's hit the wall. That's Hiro Matsushita on the back stretch between turns 2 and 3. And Hiro, you can see that front wishbone is flapping in the wind. And the front wheel at a very drunken angle. I don't know whether they know. He's not going to try and get back to the pits with that. Not much point. He'd probably do more damage to the underbody. That would cost several thousands of dollars. So there's not much point. He's come to a halt, and they'll pick that car up and bring it home. So we have another yellow. Let's see what happened here. Oh, that was... Oh, he'd already hit by then, and the damage was done. And then the front suspension broke. The rear wing's gone as well. So you can see it actually... is it gone? No, it's still there.
It's there, but
still there.
Actually a pretty good job by Hiro there to keep that car under control with that wheel, with that drunken angle, as you say. That car could have gone anywhere, and hats off to Hiro for keeping it on the relatively straight and narrow.
Well, it's a shame we've gone yellow flag, but only 19 laps to go, though, and I have to say that means that they're all going to be extremely close together when the restart takes place. Michael Andretti is our race leader from Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore. So great action here on Eurosport as we follow this first round of the championship, and Hiro Matsushita just getting out of the car there. Excitement all the way through this race so far, Jeremy, and well, what a three-way battle that's being set up now between Michael, Alex and Greg Moore. Look at the three of them playing around out there at the moment.
Yeah, and don't count out Christian Fittipaldi just yet. He's not one to take any risks, as we saw in that move with Greg Moore. He was able to maintain that position, stay in 4th place. He's happy with that. It's a good start to his season. He probably won't want to risk... he knows it's going to be tough to pass 3 guys in front of him, so he can see he stay where he is. That'll be a good start to his campaign. Just to go back a little bit, I talked about Gilles de Ferran having made a pass on Dario Franchitti. That's in fact not the case. For some reason, Dario Franchitti's transponder must have stopped working, I think, for a lap, which confused me slightly. He is in fact just ahead of Gilles de Ferran, and I don't think he's lost a lap. So by my reckoning, it will be Dario Franchitti in 8th place and de Ferran in 9th, followed by Gugelmin Carpentier and Marc Blundell, the last car on the lead lap.
So our coverage on Eurosport, starting off with this live action from the first race of the championship, and we'll be following the entire 19-race championship throughout the summer months. Into November, in fact, is when it all finishes off. And tonight, in fact, on Eurosport, we've really got some American action for you one way or another, because don't forget, after this race, we're going straight to the final of the Indian Wells tennis tournament, where Greg Ruzetsky will be playing Marcelo Rios, the Chilean, in the final of that event, and we'll be bringing you that live here on Eurosport. So I do hope you manage to stay with what should be a very intriguing match. But back to the action here, and for the moment, Michael Andretti with the slight advantage as we wait for it to go green. Still some debris being checked out on circuit at the moment. You can see the safety trucks are out on track as this, what we hope, the last yellow flag of this race, with some 17 laps still to go. Michael Andretti from Alex Zanardi and Greg Moore. Christian Fittipaldi 4th and Scott Pruitt in 5th position as they get ready for the final chase to the checkered flag. Michael Andretti, winner of 1 race last year, just happened to be this race. Alex Zanardi, winner of 5 races last year. Really was a tremendous season, but not really on this kind of oval track. This one is a bit of an intermediary track, having said that. He did win on a super speedway, and that was a tremendous achievement for Alex last year. But Greg Moore, also a winner, Detroit, Milwaukee, and that was fantastic. But let's just, we've got a chance to go down to the pits in a moment. I know that Al Unser Jr. came out of this race just a little while ago. Remember, we saw him coming into the pits. There was some sort of problem with the Penske. He had been running pretty competitively up to that point, and in fact, got himself up into 8th position. We've got a chance now to catch up with Al Unser Jr. down in the pit lane.
Well, Roger Penske may have to wait a week or so before he can score his 100th championship car victory if Al Unser Jr. is going to do it, because you dropped out of the race. Gearbox problems.
Yeah, coming off of the restart, we had, going for 5th gear, it broke, and then I went to 6th, and then right around turn 2, it broke. But really, I'm so proud of the Marlboro Team Penske. They've done a great job. This car's totally new and all that, and you saw how it was running. It's fast.
You're excited about it too. I mean, you knew it was going to be a good car during testing, but now that you've put it through its race paces, how good is it?
Well, it feels a heck of a lot better than last year's car, I'll tell you. And I don't know how fast it is, Jack. I mean, this thing is everything we do to it, it responds and all that. I made a couple mistakes. I jumped the cushion there one time, which cost me quite a lot, but it was the only car working up high. So.
Hey, check these eyes out, guy. When was the last time you saw that kind of excitement this early in the season from Al Jr.?
Well, that's great to see, isn't it? And he looks really fired up, as Jack's saying there. He really looks motivated now. We really haven't seen that sort of look from him for a little while.
No, it has been a long while, hasn't it? And as you say there, a gleam of excitement in Al Unser Jr.'s eyes, and that's tough for the opposition to see. Luckily, they can't see him smiling there, but when they watch this race on tape this evening, they'll think, whoa, he's going to be in trouble this year. He's going to be a guy to watch. And there is his teammate, Andre Ribeiro. He, of course, had that problem earlier on, and he is running in 17th place. He's actually a couple of laps down from the leader, but he's been running some very good lap times. In that last segment, between those 2 yellow flags, Andre was right behind the race leader for quite a long time there, and keeping station with Michael Andretti. That bodes extremely well indeed for that team this season.
Good, that's what we want. We want a bit of a mix and match. We want lots of different cars up there, different teams all winning races. That's what it should all be about.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? We've had Ford engines up the front, we've had Mercedes engines up the front, we've had Honda engines up the front, we've had Goodyear tyres and Firestone tyres up the front, we've had Penske chassis, not quite in the lead, but pretty damn close to it, and then the Reynard and the Swift both running in the lead. So, this series is so strong technically. There is virtual parity amongst the equipment suppliers, and that makes it so exciting. You can come in here, if you've got a good team, a good driver, and consistency, you can win races, and that is what auto racing is all about, isn't it?
It certainly is. Now, this yellow's taking a bit longer than we expected. There must be some more debris than thought up in the turns 1 and 2 area. They've got the track cleaners up there. You can just see them there in the background as the pace car goes past. So it is taking a little bit longer than expected. Still 14 laps to go. Shouldn't be much longer, we hope. JJ Leto in picture at the moment, running in 14th place. points so far. His manager, Keke Rosberg, here this weekend as well to keep an eye on how his protege has been getting on. And he's been getting on extremely well. There was a stage where JJ Leto was 4th fastest this weekend, and that wasn't a fluke because he's been setting very quick times both in spring training and in other practice sessions here at Homestead. I think that JJ's really going to start settling into this series. He's here for the long term, and that's important. He sees this as the way to really develop his career now, and it's not something that he's just doing for a year or 2 years. He's moving into his new home in Scottsdale, Arizona on Monday, and he's here for the long term.
He is, and he's so excited. Again, the fire is in his eyes as well. When he was last in single-seater racing in Formula 1, he really didn't have the opportunity. He had some good performances with the Dallara team, a couple of good efforts in the Benetton, but you know, things politically didn't work out his way there. And of course, he had that accident as well, which set him back a lot, but he is now back at full fitness. He is so motivated. He's getting on extremely well with Carl Hogan's team, Peter Scott, the team manager, Alan Langridge, the English race engineer, and Simon Morley, the English crew chief there now. So he knows he's getting on extremely well. The chemistry, again, as Barry Green would say, is there. I expect them to show extremely well from time to time this season.
Yeah, and if it rains, watch out, because JJ is just phenomenal in the wet. His sports car outings have certainly seen that, and at Le Mans in the past in wet conditions, he's just been completely phenomenal and blitzed everybody. So if it should rain at all this year, then everybody else out there just better watch out.
Yeah, he'd probably be one of the drivers in favour of racing on the ovals in the wet, wouldn't he? But I don't think so. That's tempting fate a little bit too much, way too dangerous. At these sort of speeds on the damp track, no, I don't think so. But on the oval tracks, yeah, on the road racing tracks later on, you never know. If he gets some more rain up in the northwest there, up in Portland, maybe he can emulate Mark Blundell's feat from last year.
Still got the track cleaners out there. They're making their way around through turns 3 and 4. I guess they're trying to clean up some of those marbles.
Yeah, quite a lot of debris off the racing line, and you know, once you get up in that grey side of the track there, it's awfully difficult to maintain control. We've seen several drivers up there this afternoon. Elio Castro Neves, we've seen Paul Tracy up there, and Alonso Jr., so he talked about jumping the cushion there as well. That's an oval track term. On the dirt tracks, as the cars slide sideways, they push the dirt up onto a sort of a kind of a berm or a curb even on the outside edge of the racing groove, and if you get over that cushion, you're in the loose stuff, and you're fighting for your life out there. And so a smart move here by Kart to clean up the track, and we'll have about 10 or 12 laps to go before the end of the race. And you know, if you do get up too high, perhaps they can save control of the cars, and it won't be necessary for any more yellow flags before the end of the race.
It is interesting when you talk about the former days of oval racing there, Jeremy. Of course, the name has come back, Champ Cars. It was a name that was used more when they did run on dirt ovals, wasn't it? And in the old days, guys like even Foyt, who stopped racing not that long ago, he really was racing on those dirt ovals. Mario Andretti as well. Very different, and yet very much a part of American racing.
And there is Mario Andretti cheering on his son, Michael Andretti, and he's out in front of this race, and what a character Mario is. And yeah, you know, it was a national championship, the series was known as in the 50s and so on.
And Mario won a race yesterday, didn't he?
Yes, he did indeed. A go-kart race down on the turn 4, a little portion of the track down in turn 4 there. Fun little circuit, and all sorts of fun drivers from the 70s Grand Prix racing. In fact, it was a two-driver race, and Mario was sharing, believe it or not, with Clay Regazzoni. They each had a kart, obviously, because Clay, of course, paralysed an accident at Long Beach in '79, and but still an intense competitor Clay was, and they had a wonderful time, and a tremendous effort by both of those two guys.
Right, here we go. Are you ready for the 10-lap sprint? It'll be just about 10 laps. The sprint to the checkered flag. Michael Andretti versus Alex Zanardi, Greg Moore and Christian Fittipaldi, and it's about to get underway. Here they come, out of turn 4, and Michael Andretti with the advantage. Restart lap number 140. Alex Zanardi chases in second position. Greg Moore in third, and Christian Fittipaldi in fourth. Behind them, Scott Pruitt, Adrian Fernandez, Brian Herter, Gilles de Ferran, Dario Franchitti, and Maurizio Guterman. We'll surely see some changes before the end of the race.
Yeah, Franchitti actually was passed by de Ferran at the restart, but a great restart by Michael Andretti. Launches out in the front of this field. Here he comes off turn 4. He's pulled out, what, a good 75 yards over Alex Zanardi.
What a brilliant performance, and remember, the tyres right, cooled off after such a long yellow flag, and he's got to get on it straight away, and that again is commitment to be able to be that fast on basically cold tyres on the restart. And look at the lead he's opened up already. That Swift chassis, it worked here at Homestead 1 year ago when it became the first American chassis to win a race since 1983, and it's working here again this weekend. Zanardi in second, but Greg Moore is not far behind Zanardi, and it might be the battle for second that we're going to have to concentrate on, because Andretti is just extending the lead lap by lap.
Superb effort by Michael Andretti. And going into turn 3, Gilles de Ferran was able to make up another position, stopping to 7th now at the expense of Brian Herder. But here we are on board with Michael Andretti coming off turn 4, using not all of the racetrack. It looks awfully comfortable for Michael Andretti. A 26.5, that's about the quickest lap of the race, I think. Certainly one of them. Pulls out another couple of tenths over Alex Zanardi. 1.5 seconds to lead. Pretty comfortable, just 8 laps to go for Michael Andretti.
Brilliant. This is certainly proving to be a demonstration race from Michael Andretti in the latter part. Alex Zanardi in second position, then Greg Moore, and there's not really much change between those two as they come past.
Zanardi, and 2.5 over Zanardi.
Yeah, he's just getting the pit reports from on radio. They were telling him he's got a 2.5 advantage over Alex Zanardi, and that will make Michael feel a little bit more comfortable. Perhaps now he can just take it a little bit more control. He's obviously pushed very hard on those 3 laps or so since the restart. Now he can just control the pace as he comes past the line this time. There'll just be 5 laps to go.
It's going faster and faster. 26.489 last lap around, 26.5 again this time, and Alex Zanardi keeping pace at 26.4 for Alex Zanardi. This race is not over yet, but he's going to have a hard time as they're going on the back straightaway. Michael Andretti goes past Arndt Meyer. Arndt Meyer seems to come and stays out wide, lets Andretti go through into the lead, and now Meyer is going to be passed coming off this corner by the 2nd and 3rd place cars.
Yeah, look at the pace that they go past him, but Greg Moore could have a run, and Greg Moore's got a chance to go down the inside. He's on the inside of Zanardi, and now Zanardi's going to have to brave it out, but he decides against it, and that really was because Zanardi had to lift to get past Meyer safely coming out of turn 4. Has Zanardi got anything in reserve now to go after Moore? He's going to have to need traffic, I think. It's the only way to get back at Greg, but Greg Moore taking advantage of that perfectly. That was real racecraft. He used the fact that Zanardi had to lift off. He timed his acceleration perfectly to come off turn 4 faster and take the line into turn 1.
Yeah, and let's not blame Arndt Meyer for that. He did a good job. He kept well down to the low side of the racetrack, leaving the quicker groove to the quicker cars, and so it was just a little bit unfortunate for Alex Zanardi, nothing more than that. And Greg Moore up in the 2nd place, but he's got to go. He's got 1.6 seconds to catch up with Michael Andretti. Pretty tall order.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to manage that, not unless something special happens. Michael Andretti just with a couple of laps to go now, and the advantage 1.6 seconds over Alex Zanardi last time around. Over Greg Moore rather now in 2nd place, then Alex Zanardi in 3rd, Christian Fittipaldi still in 4th, 5th is Scott Pruitt, 6th Adrian Fernandez, then Gilles de Ferran, Brian Herter, Dario Franchitti still in the top 10, which is rounded out by Maurizio Gugelmin.
Greg Moore in 2nd place, heading into turn 1. Michael Andretti, 1.4 seconds in the lead, 148 laps in the books. It'll be the white flag next time around for Michael Andretti.
So it looks as though Andretti's going to make it 2 wins in a row here at Homestead, but he's got Jimmy Vasser just up ahead of him. That's an interesting situation. I wouldn't think Jimmy will do anything to get in his way, and in fact, look how clean he keeps it coming out of turn 4. Jimmy gets well out of the way, and Michael Andretti is onto his last lap, and Andretti is going to take the maximum points and start off the 1998 season in style. He's even got time to take his time going past the back markers as he comes out of
in fact, he had to lift off there, and Greg Moore is closing quickly as they go into turn 3, and Alex Zanardi is only about 20 yards behind.
Well, look at this.
Greg Moore has a great run off this corner,
and Michael Andretti's just going to hold off Greg Moore at the checkered flag. Greg Moore had such a good run there, and what relief from the new last crew. You could see it as they couldn't believe it. It looked for a moment as though Michael was going to lose it out of the last corner, but somehow he just had enough in hand to take the victory. Let's just listen to the radio.
They played a really conservative the last 2 laps.
And he's just explaining, like he's so cool, he can just say, well, I was playing it a bit conservative over the last lap. He nearly got caught out playing it conservative. He looked a bit careful lapping that All-American Racers car. I didn't see which one it was, PJ Jones or Alex Barron, and it nearly cost him dear, but thankfully for Michael, it came out okay. Greg Moore drove a superb race here this afternoon. The early race leader, a man who lost so much with that onboard jack not working, and then of course running the last stint on a used set of tyres. But just a tremendous performance from Greg Moore. Alex Zanardi coming in third place, losing out as a result of the traffic just a little bit on the last run, but Alex will be happy with that. His aim this year is just to keep scoring points. He wants a second championship, and he knows how to go about doing it. Not a desperate run at all from Alex today. He kept his head, was sensible, and he's got the points for third position. But the winner today, Michael Andretti, as he pulls across in winner's circle and takes the applause for the first victory of the season. Brilliant stuff. Michael seems so relaxed, so happy, and there his new wife Leslie in the background.
Michael Andretti scores his first victory
Michael.
of 1998. Well, Michael, it was 12 months before you came back to Victory Lane, but you came back and you knew right where to go. But, boy, he ran the string awfully tight there in the last lap.
Yeah, I really played it conservative the last 2 laps and almost backfired. But, you know, we pretty much had it under control. But I was just maybe a little too careful there and almost caught me. But we made it, and I'm very happy.
Now, you just made it, I'll tell you what. But Ed Nathman comes up here. Listen to this.
Welcome back.
I like it.
Welcome back, Nathman. You came from the IRL back to kart, and you really kept this kid really cool all day.
AJ Foyt taught me a few things, you know.
Carl Haas, let me ask you one thing, though, Michael. You know, there's a new attitude with you. You can see it. We've seen it at spring training. We've seen it all year. Where'd it come from?
Oh, I don't know. I have a lot of great things happen in my personal life, and the racing team has turned around. The cars are a lot better. I think we're going to be a lot more competitive. The tire situation is much better, so I have a lot more confidence from all of that. You know, it's just it's a great year so far, and we got to keep it going now, and not wait another 12 months to do this.
Is the Swift up to the task this year? There were some problems. You know, we thought it was going to be great last year.
It's absolutely up to the task. You know, I think they did a great job over the winter to make a better car, and along with Goodyear, they've done a great job. The tires were perfect today, and you know, everything was just great.
Can it get any better?
No, yeah, it can. We'll win the next one.
Guys.
Well, it's great to see Michael so happy, and he has been so relaxed. I've noticed that myself talking to Michael and interviewing him in spring training, and there is his new wife, Leslie. They got married just around Christmas time.
Christmas Eve, in fact, Ben.
Races in his
Let's hear from Mario
career.
now.
Mario Andretti, can a father experience any more pride than what you must be feeling at this moment?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, it's just like my chest is out 4 miles. I'm so happy for the entire team. They've been working. Everyone works so hard. Everybody always says that, but you know, I know what's happening here, and the team is really up for it. And to be able to begin the season again with a win, with another new Swift chassis. Goodyear's done a tremendous job over the winter, so my hat's off to them, and I just hope this is a good omen for the season as it's rolling now.
Now tell me, how nervous did you get on those last couple of laps, because that blue car right behind Greg Moore was flying?
Yeah, I'm still shaking, actually, and I said, Michael, did you have to make it that exciting? He said, well, he says, I was a little bit too conservative on that last lap. I realized that, but you know, he usually knows how to handle a lead, actually, so, but it was exciting.
As a man who has won so many championships in your career, how significant is coming out of the box to start a new season with more points than anybody else?
Well, I'll tell you, it beats anything else, because you know, to be able to be just at the head of the field in points, and to be able to rule, if you will, as you go on to the next race, I think it builds momentum with the team. You know, this is human. You know, this sport is human. You got a lot of people involved, and everyone has to give 110%. So this is the best medicine you could have going into the season.
Savor it. Enjoy it.
You bet. Thank you.
That's Mario Andretti.
Gary, let's tell you about the driver of that blue car that gave Michael Andretti and his dad a lot of fits the last 2 laps. Greg Moore, that was exciting.
Yeah, it was. I think if we'd have got the white flag when we got the checkered there, I think I would have had him into 1. But you know, it's a good job for my guys. You know, they worked awfully hard when we had that air jack failure to you know, to put us right back up into the top 3 with pit stops was a good job.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You know, it looked like you had everything all together. That first pit stop, the failure with the onboard jacking system, and then you come back and you battle your way back. Listening to the radio back and forth, it was almost as if, not that you were resigned that you couldn't win, but this was a chance for your team to show that you had the patience necessary to win a championship.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I almost had Michael there through 3 and 4 that last lap, but you know, it's better to finish second than not finish at all. But you know, realistically, I think where we were, we had a shot at winning the race if we hadn't had that air jack failure. But you know, second, still a pretty good job for everybody in the players team.
Always amazes me when a driver's running so well, like your team was, then that malfunction takes place. How do you control the emotions inside the cockpit?
It's a little bit difficult because we had to come back in again, so I was dead last. So you know, you just start to think, you know, how am I going to get by the guys in front of me before the leaders come up behind me and stuff. But you know, my car was working real well in traffic. My engineers did a good job there. But I'm a little bit disappointed, but on the other hand, pleased that I had such a good drive today.
Well, we watched when the car pulled onto pit road or into victory lane here for the podium ceremonies, and you would have thought your team had won the race. You guys were really genuinely excited about how you were able to battle back.
Well, for sure. I mean, because we were dead last, and we, you know, my car was working really well in traffic. My guys gave me good stops, and they know that with that adversity of having, you know, the air jack failure, they did a real good job.
Gary, 22 years old, he's already scored 2 victories, got his first pole today, his first podium of 98. This guy is really on a roll.
So fantastic performance from Greg Moore to recover that ground. Nice to see him and Michael just shaking hands there at the end. But Michael Andretti taking this first win of the season. Quite a race there for Michael Andretti, Greg Moore and Alex Zanardi for that matter. Just a really incredible turn of events. Of course, in a couple of weeks' time, we've got the next race of the championship from the Twin Ring Montegi track, a new track in Japan. And Jeremy, looking forward to that one. It should be really exciting to see these cars racing all the way over in Japan.
Yeah, fairly similar racetrack in some ways. It's 1.5 miles, but the 2 corners there, the 2 ends of the racetrack, quite different. One is quite a bit tighter than the other end, and Michael Andretti is going to be strong again, no question.
Well, coming up after this, the final of the Indian Wells tennis tournament. To make sure you stay with us to see how Greg Ruzetsky gets on against Marcelo Rios, and that promises to be a very interesting final indeed. But here at Homestead, it's Michael Andretti's day, the winner at Homestead again, and the new championship leader.